feel like I have antennas. Hey guys, it's Taylor Skirt, and I'm doing another university video. I've actually already filmed this entire video, but the camera decided to stop recording about 5 minutes in, and I didn't notice until 45 minutes later. So, from the top.
Hello darkness, my old friend.
For those of you that don't know me, my name's Taylor. I'm currently at the University of Exeter studying drama. I'm in my third and final year. I've done a whole video on Exeter, so if you're planning on applying to University of Exeter, or you already got an offer, or you are already here, or you're not actually interested in going to university at all, but you just like watching these sort of videos, go check that out. I will link it above. It'll also be in the description. It's an ultimate guide to the whole of University of Exeter. It talks about absolutely everything, so it is quite a long video, but I really recommend it. I do talk a little bit about accommodation in there, but that is mostly Exeter Uni related, and this video is for all of you lovely people. This video is about all universities in England and their accommodation and how to pick one. If that's what you're looking for, you've come to the right place. Obviously, the accommodation that you eventually pick will be down to your personal preferences, but it's kind of hard to know those opinions if you don't know what to expect. So there's loads of different types of accommodation, and we're just going to go through them really quickly right now. The different types of room: there's standard, ensuite, studio, and twin. So standard, you have your own bedroom, but you share bathrooms and kitchens. Ensuite, you have your own bathroom but you share a kitchen. Studio, you have your own bathroom and kitchen. And twin, you have a roommate. So there's obviously pros and cons to all of those. For example, with standard, it's a little bit more sociable because you have your kitchen area, but you do have to cook with everyone else in the same space, and there might not be enough hobs, or people might use your cutlery or your plates and then not wash them up. And bathroom wise, it's kind of annoying having to share a bathroom with other people that you don't know, especially when they could be really unhygienic, or maybe they're in the bathroom right when you need to be there because you have somewhere to go and the bathroom's not free. So it can be really annoying, but it is one of the cheaper options. I ended up in a standard room. I was really worried about the bathrooms, but I ended up being pleasantly surprised. My roommates were absolutely fine. Nothing weird going on in those showers. And having the kitchen was a really nice place to host and be sociable and all that. So I ended up really loving it. Then there's ensuite, which you have your own bathroom, which is a little bit more private, a little bit more hygienic. You can have your own space for your things, and you still do have that sociable kitchen area as well. A little bit more expensive, of course. Then there's studio, which is really nice for some people who go out and are sociable in the day and then want to come home and have their own space and have their own things everywhere where they want it, and they not have to worry about going out and seeing other people when their social battery is drained beyond relief. So some people really like that option of having their own kitchen, their own bathroom, and their own bed all in like this one nice little comfortable space that's their own. One negative of that is obviously you don't have the shared kitchen, which means you don't have that shared sociable space because you're not in a flat. But an easy way to get around that is to just open your door and meet other people on your corridor. Then there's twin rooms where you have a roommate. These are often in older halls and they're a lot less common. Some people really love having a roommate because it's like you instantly know someone and you instantly have a friend, and it can go really well. But on the negative side, you never really have your own personal space to yourself, and you and your roommate could not see eye to eye on certain things, so I really would recommend setting some boundaries. So those are the different types of rooms. Obviously, if you are disabled and you need disabled access, they obviously have those sort of rooms as well, but usually in only specific accommodations. Please do look out for that. You do not want to be put in an accommodation where there's only stairs when you're in a wheelchair. So do think about that when you're looking at that as well. Then there's catered or self-catered halls. So if you're in self-catered, you have the shared kitchen spaces, you make your own meals, you make what you want, when you want, or you get takeout and spend way too much money on it and then can't afford your school textbooks. I was self-catered and I had no idea how to cook when I first arrived, but it was actually a really good time to start learning the skill because loads of other people are in the same boat as you, trying to be an adult. However, some people find that moving away from home and learning to cook and all of this can be so overwhelming. So there's also the catered option, which is more of a school-like environment where there's a big canteen where everyone eats together. Good things about that is obviously it's kind of sociable, having all these people together that you can sit with at meal times, and you don't have to cook for yourself, so it can be a really good time saver. Negatives is obviously that it's a bit more expensive and that there are meal times. So if you have a sports practice or a class that runs over and you don't make it back in time for dinner, you then still have to buy yourself some food. And you don't have your own kitchens. You might have like a little room where you have maybe a toaster, a microwave, and a kettle and a sink. But that would be about it, so you're quite limited to meals you want to make yourself. Adding to that, it's a lot less sociable for hosting things because you're kind of limited to how many people you can fit in your room. But catered halls usually do have common spaces, so you can go to those. Then you've got to think about accommodation location. So if you're at a campus university, there are often things called student villages on campus or slightly to the side of the campus, which are university-owned accommodations, where you are completely surrounded by other students and you are right next to class, so you could probably just roll out and go straight into your lectures, and it's this real friendly student vibe. Then there's off-campus, which are, if you're at a campus uni, more often than not private owned, or if you're not on a campus university, it's going to be a bit of a mix. These are a little bit further away from campus, usually a bit closer to town, and they give you a bit of a work-life separation, which I really liked. I was off campus in a private owned accommodation. I ended up being right on the high street, right next to the biggest club in Exeter, and only a short walk to campus. So that really worked for me. I really enjoyed that. And you're still in a big building full of students, so you still get this whole university vibe. So those are your two options. Both have good things and bad things about them. It all depends whether you want to be closer to the campus or if you want to have a little bit of space away from it. Now here's where it gets tricky. In your head right now, you have your dream accommodation, and I have to get you to take it down from cloud 9 and slap it in the face with finances. Yes, money. It ruins everything. I'm sorry, your fantasy is probably not going to happen unless you're really, really lucky. More often than not, you're going to have to compromise. So this is where having priorities is absolutely key. For example, would you rather be closer to class or have an ensuite? So making a list of your priorities is really, really useful when you're looking at your finances and seeing what you can and can't afford, and then picking which things are more important to you, and eventually it really slims down your list to just a few options. So that's a really, really good way to help you figure out which accommodation you want. Next, I'm going to talk about something that I think is so important and so often overlooked, and that is reviews. Whenever you buy anything online, you look at reviews, and if there are terrible reviews, you're not going to buy that product. I think it is so important to find out what that accommodation is to the university, more than just what it looks like, but how people enjoy living there. Most university accommodations, private owned and university owned, have certain stigmas surrounding them, and this is especially true in collegiate universities. For example, this halls or college might be next to the gym, so more sporty people apply for this accommodation, so it's more of a sporty halls or college. Again, this one could be near the library, so it's where the more studious people go, or that one's where all the party people go. And when you're at university, you really want to surround yourself by people that you share values with and will get along with. So it's really important to bear that in mind when you're applying for accommodations. Obviously, it's going to be a mixed bag when you get there. Not everyone in that sporty halls or college is going to be sporty. Not everyone in that party halls or college is going to be a big partier. They might not even be a drinker. It's always going to be a mixed bag, but I think it is really important to look at things like that because it gives you a good idea of that halls as a whole. To use an extra example, there's Jury Yard, which is extremely far away from everything, and that is known as the boring halls, not because the people there are boring, but because nothing ever happens there, because it's so far away from everything that they're not going to host a party. People from Jury Yard will instead go elsewhere. So do bear that in mind when you're looking at it. Reviews are so important. And I'm just going to finish this off with some tips that I'm going to give from myself to you. You're welcome. First one, I'm going to go back to finances. It's really important to look at the length of your contract. You don't want a contract that means you're going to be paying for something when you're not there. By this, I don't mean a contract that doesn't include the holidays like Christmas or Easter, because having to move your stuff out is really annoying if you're doing it at the end of every term. But you don't want to go into a contract where you're going to be paying for a month where you've already finished school and you've gone home and you've already moved out and you're not going to be there. So do look at the number of weeks your contract is for, because it could save you quite a lot of money. Next, I want to say something that you should never compromise on is security. Security is so important. University halls, private owned or university owned, are usually really good at this, but there are always a few exceptions. So when you're looking at reviews, make sure you have a look at how the security is, because I just think that is something that should never, ever, ever be compromised on. Safety is so important. Be safe. Next, I want to say that if you pick your accommodation and you move in and you really don't like it and you want to change accommodation, you can. I haven't heard of a single university where you can't change. It can be a bit of an irksome process, but I'm pretty sure that at most universities, if not all universities in the United Kingdom, you can apply for accommodation transfer. I said this again in my Exeter video. If you did want to change accommodations, I would really recommend doing it in the first term, because statistically that's when most first year students drop out, which means there's more spaces available for you to move into and more chance that you can get to the accommodation that you want. However, I would wait 1 to 2 weeks, maybe 3, in your accommodation just to make sure that you actually don't like it and it's not just your opinion before seeing it. Again, bringing up my example, the second I found out I wasn't on campus like I wanted to be, I wasn't in an ensuite like I wanted to be, I instantly wanted to transfer, but within a week of living in my halls, I absolutely loved it. So don't judge a book by its cover, don't make your decisions straight away, give it a chance, and if you still don't like it, apply for accommodation transfer in the first term and hope your second time lucky. A last thing I want to say is this whole video has been mostly for first years, but obviously as a second year, a third year, a fourth year, a master's student, a postgraduate student, a PhD, all of those, you can still live in student accommodation. If you're a postgraduate, they often have specific accommodations for you, where it's postgraduate alone or postgraduate and undergraduate. Same with undergraduate, there are often ones for just undergraduate and then some that are mixed. Just because you're not a first year undergraduate doesn't mean you can't live in student accommodation. You don't have to move out into a house or rent a flat or an apartment or anything like that. You can still live in a student accommodation if it's what you want to do. Most second year or third year students who decide to keep living in halls often go to private owned accommodation, so off campus, maybe more in town. Often there are actually halls that are specifically known for second and third year students living there. It's not a requirement, but it's just known that most second or third years go to that specific halls. So again, do your research into that by getting some reviews. Reviews are so important, please. So to sum up this video, how to pick your accommodation, know what your options are, know what you can afford, figure out what other people think of them that actually have experienced it, and don't forget that if it goes wrong, you can still move. I think that about sums up the video. So if you did like it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, click the notification bell if you want to know every single time I post, which is a little bit erratic because I am a third year in her second term doing her dissertation. If you have any more questions, comment down below, and as always, my DMs are open if you need any more advice. I love you lots, and bye-bye. Skirt! I absolutely hate not being able to see the screen is seeing because it means I have to walk back and forwards, and I never know if it just stops recording suddenly. I quit.